Today I am going to do a tag called Tarot Bartender by Sapling Tarot. And somebody left a comment about it in one of my videos, so I hadn't been watching YouTube, so I didn't see it. But I got the prompts, and I'm going to do the tarot tag. And then I'll watch everybody's video after. But the first prompt is old-fashioned, your favorite classic deck or a riff on a classic. And for that, I picked the Marea Tarot because it is a classic kind of riff on a Thoth deck. And this was a deck I first saw on Kasha's channel, and then it was supposed to come out on Kickstarter, and I backed it, and then it didn't make it. I think that's what happened, and then I had to wait, I think, for the second Kickstarter, because I don't think enough people knew about it. So then I had to wait for the second one, and then it finally funded because more people knew about the deck, and I got it just within the last year. I've used it a lot. I really love the deck. I think it's beautiful. I think she did an amazing job, or they did an amazing job, and that it's really, really cool. It doesn't have the keywords down below, but you can definitely recognize it and recognize it. If you put the Thoth next to it, there'd be a lot of things that look similar. But it's her own take, and it's really cool and fun to use. And I really enjoy this one. I think it's really, really beautiful. I think it's still available, and it is by Maša. Sorry, I don't know how to say her name, their name. So I will just show you at the end so that you can see if you want to get it or not. But it is a really beautiful. I love the 7 of discs in this deck. I think it's really, really pretty. Well done, and just really fun. And I like the art style. She has a really beautiful hand, and I think she did a gorgeous job. So that is the Marea Tarot. Okay, next prompt is Gin and Tonic, a no-frills, straightforward, to-the-point deck. And I picked the Wild Unknown Tarot for this. And when this deck came out, I think it was in 2012, it totally changed who used tarot. And because this was such a straightforward no-frills deck, I think it opened up tarot to a lot of people who just never would have used it. And tarot started getting really much more popular at this time. And I remember seeing it in all kinds of stores, like flower shops and things that you would never have seen tarot decks in before. You know, I remember before that, you would have to go to a metaphysical store to get a tarot deck. And then when this deck came out, it was everywhere. Or maybe it was a little after, because I think at first you had to get it from the creator, and then it just became like so popular because it got rid of all the esoterica in the decks, and it, I think, just made it way easier for people to understand, because you just learned what the card meant and you read with it. There's no people in it, so I think that really helped. And then the pip style and the black and white with color, all of that kind of just took this down to a no frills style that really just changed things at that time. And I think this deck is absolutely beautiful, and I absolutely love it, and I think it's gorgeous. But it was kind of just that plain and simple no-frills tarot. And if you knew how to read tarot, you could just pick it up and read this deck really easily. And if you didn't, you could just learn the meanings of the cards and start reading with it. And you didn't have all that extra imagery or any of those hidden things to deal with the way you do in some of the, like the RWS has all kinds of hidden knowledge, right? And so it just simplified it down to, okay, this is tarot, you can read tarot. And so this was just a deck that changed things. So I'm picking that for my no-frills deck. And this is the indie version. There is a mass market version. I don't know where my mass market one is right now, so I picked my indie one out. All right, next prompt is the Spritz. And for the Spritz, I picked the Daydream Tarot. This is a deck that has a lot of youthful energy. And a Spritz is kind of just a lighter version of a cocktail that is supposed to be light and refreshing. Aperol spritzes were really popular, like in the older generation. And I used to go with my grandparents and drink Aperol spritzes when we went out for lunch and things. And this year, it seems like what I'm seeing around a lot is the Saint Germain Hugo spritzes, and they have Saint Germain elderflower liquor in them, and they're lighter. They have lime and mint, and they're very refreshing. And that is what I think of this deck, that it's just kind of light, refreshing. You can use it around the kids. It's really sweet. It kind of is bubbly. And sometimes people will put like Proseccos or champagne or sparkling wines into spritzes. And there's all kinds of spritzes and that you can make. And I think it's been popular to have kind of lighter style spritzes lately. And so it's just kind of a light, fun drink. And this is kind of a light, fun deck. So I thought this was perfect. And I use this around the kids and things. And everybody always thinks it's cute. It's not terribly deep or serious. It's just kind of a light, fun deck. And it's got little baby animals in it. It's just like pastels and sweet colors. And it's got like mermaids and pastel scenes. And it reminds me a little bit of like kids movie. And the tower is a cake falling over, which is just really cute. And you can get a good reading out of it, but it's not going to give you anything harsh. So when you just want that kind of lighter vibe, this is a good deck to use. That's the Daydream Tarot. All right, the next prompt is the Dirty Martini. And I have picked the New York Tarot for the Dirty Martini. This was a deck created by Gianni Siri in the 80s. And it definitely has that strong, salty vibe. And it was one of the early photographic decks. And it does things like, oh, I made a mistake on the card, so I'll just put a piece of paper over it and glue it on. And it's got that just like New York vibe. And it is really well done and well thought out. And I love these old vintage decks that are kind of handmade, handcrafted. I just think they're so cool. And I enjoy a dirty martini. A martini is typically made with vodka or gin. And typically a dirty martini is made with vodka because it allows the flavor of the brine to shine. I enjoy gin in my martinis because I like that botanical flavor from the gin. I enjoy that even in a dirty martini. And I enjoy craft gins. It is kind of a fun drink and an old classic drink. Isn't that cool? The moon is Moon Dance Diner. I love that. And the subway is Transport instead of the Chariot. There's just so many cool things about this deck. And the more you play with this deck, the more you'll see, oh, yeah. And you know, I didn't grow up in New York. I visit New York quite a bit because one of my daughters lives there. But I didn't grow up there, so I missed out on a lot of the things that were happening with time. It is an incredibly cool city, and I really appreciate it now. But I grew up in Hawaii, so I didn't really get to know it until I was older and we moved to the mainland. And that is the New York Tarot. And this deck has the astrological cards too. I leave those out when I'm reading with it, but it is kind of cool it has them. All right, next prompt is Pina Colada, a deck for a summer holiday. And I picked the Hilda Tarot because it's the perfect deck for a summer holiday. It feels like summer. And Hilda's mostly doing things out in the summer here. She's doing things in the winter too. She's often in a swimsuit though. I will not drink a Pina Colada on the mainland, like, unless I make it myself, because they are terrible. Part of a really good Pina Colada is making sure you have really great pineapple. And I like to use white pineapple in my Pina Coladas. You can't get white pineapple outside of Hawaii. And if you use white pineapple and you make it yourself, it is so good. And there's places in Hawaii that can make really good Pina Coladas. But on the mainland, a Pina Colada is not the same thing. But this deck is very fun. Hilda is often just doing crazy things out, like as if she's on holiday all the time. And it's just cute and sweet and really fun. And I really, really love this deck. The art is by Dwayne Byers, and Celestial Esther did the deck. And I think there's another one maybe that came out, but this is the one that I love. And this is the second version of it. There's also a version that has the brown backs, but I love the classic, the blue and white checks on the deck. And I like this version. So this is my favorite version. This is my favorite deck for a summer holiday. It just feels like summer, even though there are some pictures in here where, you know, she's by the fire or something, but that could be like a summer evening when it's cold. I love that Hermit. The sun, what a perfect sun card. 10 of Cups. It's just super cute and super simple and easy and light feeling. Very summer holiday feeling. And it's just sweet. I love the art. I love the deck. Next prompt is Hot Toddy, a deck for a cool winter's night. And for that, I picked the Blood Moon Tarot because this just has, even though it's got some pastel colors, it feels like a deck you'd want to use on a cold winter night and sit by the fire and do the readings with this. This is such an unusual deck. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's got gold gilding on it. And I saw the full card, like I think a lot of people, and fell in love with the deck and was like, couldn't wait to back it. And I have the big book of it, which is kind of cool too, because the art in it is really, really big, and then it explains everything in more detail. This is a deck that reads different than you think it will. It's actually got a lot of depth to it, and it changes your perspective on things a little bit. So going into like that contemplative winter night, that cold dark night, and using this makes a lot of sense. And it's, I think, coming back into print maybe. It is just, that was the card that it just blew my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh. Just like, I don't know if you can tell, but there's all these things on the door and it's intricate. And then the Fool is going out into a different world. And it's just such a great depiction of the Fool. It's one of my very favorite Fool cards of all time. And so when I saw that, just that card was like, I have to have that deck. And I really, really enjoy reading with this deck. It just is different than what I thought it was going to be, which is okay. You know, it's kind of like a cool thing sometimes to get a deck and think it's going to be one way, and then it turns out to be something else. I love all the suits in this. It's got dreams, songs, skins, honey. It's just gorgeous. It's really, really beautiful deck. And I think I heard that it's coming back into print, so it's really fun to use this deck. And I like how the box, like, isn't overly big, and it just is kind of that perfect box. It opens perfect. It's a cool deck. And this is by Sam Gway. All right, next deck, or next prompt, is the Espresso Martini. And I picked the L'Oeil de l'Homme. I have never had an Espresso Martini in my life. I can't imagine having that drink, but this is a prompt that says an energy boosting drink. And this is by Charlotte Moy. This is a deck that is just uplifting and kind of fun and quirky. And so I picked this for my Espresso Martini. It is really different. The mermaids don't have arms, or their arms are cut off. And at one time I knew why, and I've forgotten why now at this point. But there's a reason for it. And this is a deck that's just kind of uplifting to me because it is so different. It just kind of makes me see things in a different light. And it's really beautiful, and I love it. And it's really fun to use. And so I picked this for my Espresso Martini. And Espresso Martini is kind of a interesting drink because you're having alcohol, which kind of slows you down, and then you're having espresso, which kind of wakes you up. So it's kind of an odd combination. I can't imagine what one would taste like. But I can't imagine how this deck just wakes me up and gives me some energy, and yet is like calm in its own weird way. But it's fun. And the obviously, as you see here, the quartz and the majors are in color, and the minors are in black and white, or kind of like a gray, brown, and white color. And there's a lot of eyes, because obviously l'oeil means eye in French. So it's basically what this means is eye of the soul is what the deck is. And it does a good job of being an eye of the soul deck. And it's just unusual and fun. I don't see it very often. So I am using this in the prompt. I love the Hermit card. I ordered a bag to use for the kids for Halloween. And the bag had that Hermit on it. It just reminds me of that time of year. The hanged man is a little strange. But a lot of the deck is just really cool and fun to use. And it looks really pretty when it's out on your table. So I just think it's cool. And a fun deck. And something you don't see all the time. This was a Kickstarter originally. I think the Kickstarter was 2021 or 22, something like that. It was during the pandemic. All right, next prompt is the Manhattan, and I picked Benabel's Spirit Keepers deck for that. This is the Revelation version, and this is a deck, it's got beautiful gold gilding, by the way, that I like to take my time with. And a Manhattan is a drink that, even though it's kind of an old-fashioned drink, I love, because if you have a great bourbon or a great rye and you have like really, really great cherries, then it's just a deck that you can sit and sip on and just savor. And that's what this deck is. Benabel's deck is so complex and there's so many things in it and it's so beautiful. It's a deck that you can do short readings with, but it's also a deck that you can just take your time and learn about all the meanings and all the history that's included and the blend of the different systems. And I love the art in this deck. I just think it's stunning. And I love the complexity of it. And I love that it reads great just for like a 3-card reading. Or you can do really complex readings with it. And there's a huge amount of information and big books about it. And it's just one of those decks that I feel like you could just learn about for ages. And you could just dive so deep in and still never really know everything about it. I spent, you know, like probably about 6 or 8 months just with this deck every morning, and I took like 45 minutes every morning to an hour and just like would read about it and study it. And I feel like I didn't even learn half of what's in this deck, but I have a better understanding of it now than I did before. But it's just got so much depth to it. So this is definitely my Manhattan, and I do love a good Manhattan. I love craft cherries in my Manhattans too. Like, that's super important to me in that drink. Okay, next prompt is the Mojito, a palate cleanser for when you just need a reset. And I am going to show you the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black. And this is the indie version of the deck. And I think now it's made by Kulenović, and it's a little bit bigger. Anyway, I think it's still available now, and I think maybe it's kind of linen-y now. This is a great cardstock, but it's thin, and this is slightly smaller. But this is a deck that uses old paintings, and it's just kind of a palette cleanser because it's not bringing in a lot of esoterica. It's bringing in a lot of old art as if you would see it at a museum. And it's just kind of a calming, peaceful, beautiful deck. The faces in this deck are just gorgeous. It's close up. It's very classic depictions. It's really a beautiful deck. I just enjoy reading with it. And it uses the paintings very effectively to portray the tarot. Mojitos are not a drink I drink a lot. We used to make them once in a while in Hawaii. Is not something that I drink every day. I do often use this deck kind of just as a palate cleanser if I have it out and laying around. And it also gives me great readings. And it's easy to read with. And like, they'll just use like a classic painting, but she's bound, and they might add in swords or do a little collage, like they added the coin. Like the tower is from the painting. The star is a real painting that has all these features, and it just like they did. I think it was a really nice, early, well done version of this type of art in a tarot. And it's very enjoyable. And it's not overly complicated. So it's kind of nice to use for a palette cleanser. And the bag has the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black embroidered into the bag, which is kind of cool. All right, next prompt is a problem-solving deck. And for that, I picked the Sistine Tarot, because this deck I am playing with it all the time. I am loving this deck, and it is just giving me such great readings this year. And it's giving me readings that help me solve the problem that I'm having. And so the Sistine Tarot by Rose Bay is my problem-solving deck. And it is absolutely gorgeous. And it has some extra cards in it. It has the 4 virtues, and it has the astrological cards, and I just have them all mixed in. So when you see this, you'll kind of just see them mixed in. Because with this tarot, I enjoy reading and having that extra layer. And I just think this deck is incredibly well done. It just resonates with me. It is something I am really loving. And it's probably maybe my most used deck since I got it. I'm really loving it. I love the collage and the thought that was put in to the collage. And it just seems like, oh yeah, I totally see that card that way. But I wouldn't have thought to put that in. And it's unique. And just also just really beautiful. This is linen cardstock. I love the backs. And some of the cards are just so cute. Like the 4 of Swords. But it has kittens. And it's very special to me. I really love it. And it reads so well. And when I read with this deck, I'll ask it an answer and it'll just solve my problem. Or it'll lead me to solving my problem, which is really cool and really fun to be able to have a deck that can do that. I love the Chariot. So could there be a cooler Chariot? I love Temptation. Anyway, really, really enjoying this deck. This is my travel version. I also have a version with the gold on it. The gold on the edging is just gorgeous. So, very, very beautiful deck. Very special. Sistine Tarot. All right, next prompt is a French 75, and for a French 75, the prompt is a special occasion deck, and I am showing you the R Black Tarot. And this is a deck that I take out only for special occasions because the cardstock is more like almost kind of art paper, and it's got square edges. I really love this art in this deck. I think it is really, really beautiful. And I think there's going to be another production of this deck right now. I think it's sold out. I know it's sold out. And he's going to produce another deck on different cardstock, I think. And this cardstock shuffles. At first I was scared to shuffle, but I can shuffle it. But I don't use it all the time because I keep it partially as an art deck. I will use it for special occasions. But I love that star card. It's not something that I use on a daily basis just because I think I got some of the meanings shuffled in. Because the cardstock is a little bit fragile. Just because it's art paper, and I worry about, if I spilled something on it or got something on it, I might hurt the deck. And I would be really, really sad if something happened in this deck, because I love the color palette on it. It is just unique. So I'll talk about the drink a little bit. A French 75 is a drink that when I make it at home, I use really great champagne, like French true champagne, not sparkling wine. And I pick a really great bottle, and then I'll drop a little sugar cube in it. And sometimes I'll just drink it like that. But the classic way to make it is with a little bit of gin and a little bit of lemon. And it's just a light, refreshing drink. And you can go to almost any high quality bar and get a good French 75. It's a drink that I would often order when I'm waiting for my friends at the bar. And it just feels like special when you drink it. partly because you're drinking that really great champagne, right? And great champagne, there's nothing like it. And there's nothing like this deck either. It's unique, got a unique palate. It's really beautiful. That's the R Black Tarot. And it just comes in this little box like that. Really cute. All right, next prompt is the Aviation, a wild card deck for when you're feeling adventurous. And I picked Tarot of the Starbound Fantasia by Taylor Ellis. And this deck is interesting in that it has a lot of alchemical references to it. It's very bright and colorful, but it's got quite a bit of layering in it. And it's pretty cool. It's an interesting deck. It has more depth than how it appears at first glance. And an Aviation is an interesting drink. I drink those. It's gin, another gin. We have a lot of gin drinks in this stag. But it's gin maraschino liqueur, which is actually quite good. And it's not the same at all as like maraschino, that red stuff you get with cherries in it, the fake stuff. It's nothing like that. Maraschino liqueur is actually clear. And then you've got creme de violet and lemon juice. And you have like a brandied cherry. So you use like those really high quality cherries that have been soaked in brandy. So it's a great drink, or I enjoy the drink. It's not too sweet. It's just like a really nice balance. Important to use craft gin, in my opinion. But this deck has like some unexpected surprises like that. I think it's really beautiful. It's really colorful. Like, an Aviation is very colorful. And it has some surprises in it. And that reminds me of this deck, the Starbound Fantasia. And I love the art, and I also love the layering in this deck. It is really just a fun deck to use. I love that card. The aces in this deck are spectacular, I think. And the Ace of Wands that I just showed is also just really cool. Anyway, it's a unique deck that I don't see all the time. So that is my Aviation. Next prompt is the usual. And my usual is just the Toth. It's back in order because I was teaching somebody some things yesterday and we put it in order. I don't usually use the extra cards in here. It has extra like Magus cards and stuff. But I don't use those when I actually use it. But you know what? I'll just leave them in to show you so you can see all. This is the actual one that I use. You either have this deck and know it, or you probably don't want it. So I won't spend a lot of time showing you this deck. And it's just the deck that I use all the time. Because I've used it more than 30 years. And I learned to read tarot on this deck 30 some years ago. And so it's my usual. The usual they listed was a lemon drop tequila shot. That's not me. That's not my usual. If I have a usual drink, it's just a bourbon drink. And it's one of a number of bourbon drinks. But it definitely is not a lemon drop or a tequila shot. And I do like a really good craft tequila. And I do like a good mezcal. But my usual is just going to be a great bourbon drink. And there's, you know, riffs on the bourbon drinks. And so that's often what I'll get. So this is the Toth. And I'm sure you've seen it before. Or you have it. Or you don't want it. That's the usual. Next drink is a whiskey sour, that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. Well, okay, first of all, a whiskey sour is not really what I would consider a bitter drink. But this beautiful deck that I love had one issue in it that kind of left a little bit of a bitter taste. I got over it and I got through it because I love the deck. This is Tarot of the Drowning World, by the way. I don't think I said that. And I really enjoy reading with this, and I use it quite frequently. But it has some clowns in it. Oh, yep, that's the card. That's the card that kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth, and I was just like, well, I'm not sure that I can get through that, but I did. And a whiskey sour is actually, it's a sour, and sour drinks have like a sour component and a sweet component, but they're not really bitter. So this did have a bitter component, so I'm following the prompt as I saw it, but it's not really, by the way, I love whiskey sours if you have really great whiskey. And I make them all the time for people at home. It's probably the drink that I make the most for my guests when people come over, is a whiskey sour. And you know, a margarita is really just a sour. Like, it's sort of a class of drinks, but they have a sweet and sour balance. They're not really bitter. So this has a sweet and sour balance, but it also has that bitter card. And I think it's gorgeous. The addition of the flowers. This was made during the pandemic when I think people were home. There's some cards that are disturbing. So that's the part I'm talking about that's bitter. But overall, this is a pretty sweet deck. Maybe that's a little sour. You know, there's little aspects of it that are just like, boop. But I think the deck is freaking gorgeous. I'm super in love with it. I love using it. And it's got beautiful cardstock. It shuffles fantastic. It's really well done. It's really unusual. It's a Marseille deck, or Marseille style. It's great. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.